My name is Elizaphan. I'm a development practitioner and a social impact investor working with Nguzo Africa, and I'm a community power fellow working with the Root Change. Today we are looking at the issues of mental health and community power, but it's nice for us to start with introductions. What is your name?
So I'm Ivette Guillermo Magehi. I'm the founder and director of Allies in Caring, a philanthropic organization that provides mental health services for immigrants in the United States, specifically New Jersey. And we are working, mobilizing communities and educating communities on the impact of mental health, but also the importance of civic engagement as a way to also improve their mental health.
Thank you, Yvette. Today we also have a powerful colleague from Sierra Leone. He can introduce himself.
I am Joseph M. Kagbo. I worked in Fumble Talk since 2008. We've been doing this work for over 15 years, and I support and train community structures such as the CWMCs, the base models, the CPAD, and the VCs. This is how to train communities to see how they can put themselves at the center of their own development, because Sierra Leone is a post-conflict country where so many things, separations, interpersonal disconnections have happened. So like so many things fall apart. We go in route from the communities to speak out, to build out the peace from speaking from the inside out, because we want to see that communities themselves see themselves at the center, and their voices can be heard far and wide. We are working with over 1,500 communities across Sierra Leone in West Africa. And these have been ongoing to date, and we are also looking at how we can see that communities structure themselves to see take lead in developmental projects.
Thank you, Joseph and Yvette. And it's so exciting to see diverse people across the world connecting on the key topic of community power. What does community power mean to you, Yvette?
So it means that the capacity to work together, to mobilize, so that individuals in the community can contribute to the well-being of all.
Yeah. Do you have challenges in doing community power work in your community where you come from?
Of course, yeah. So there are many challenges, but the specific challenge I'm working with is the individual. So human beings need to contribute. And need to belong. Belonging and contribution is what makes us healthy. So when we are working with immigrants, which are not welcome in every community, and so that impacts their sense of belonging and their freedom to contribute. So what we are working with is to help immigrants to come together and create a sense of belonging among themselves, and supporting them to become, regardless of the difficulties in the community, become contributing members in the ways that they can manage, and also that helps the community at large to value the contributions of the immigrants. So and our work is about helping individuals develop their capacity to create, to find solutions in the midst of challenges. And what that requires is this developing skills to manage anxiety, to manage the fear, to learn how to communicate with others who are probably not friendly to them. And so there is navigating this the realities, the adversity that we are facing. And so I understand every community has adversities, and what we are working is, regardless of the adversity, what are the skills that you can still mobilize, one, to help you manage your own anger, your own frustration, your own anxiety, your own frustration sometimes can become depression. And so we don't want people to become depressed, but to use the frustration to then generate some solutions together.
Thank you, Yvette. There's something I wanted to know. How do you use community power to connect youth bearers and light holders? How do you use it, those in power, to link up with the migrants? How do you make the mayor or those in power to to address the issues which affect the immigrants?
So one of the things that I have conversations with everyone about depression or anxiety, and depression and anxiety is a human experience that can come from different. So sometimes I start like trying to help them develop empathy. So they might say, oh yeah, my kid also has anxiety, or I have I myself am struggling with depression. So that's one way that I try to say, like, okay, so you know about depression, and you know that human beings, like when you are frustrated on a daily basis, it can paralyze you. And so we don't want that. The town is going to benefit if we have people who are who have the energy to contribute. But if we have people who are depressed or using drugs or fighting with each other, it's not good for the well-being of the town. So we need to work together, and we need to make sure that we don't contribute to that we resolve the frustration, that we help people find ways to meet their needs. And so when you like when in my conversations with the mayor, it's not good for you to have people who are frustrated, because that's going to escalate and become violence, and then you're not going to have the town that you want to have.
Perfect. Thank you, Ivette, for it is critical for you to build a common ground, particularly for those in power, to understand the powerful impact they have in the communities to address the issues of mental health, and also to see empathy to those who are suffering in the communities by looking at them as human beings and people who need support in whenever circumstances we are in. Joseph, I think you witness a lot, particularly on reconciliation, and you have a lot of experience in terms of building community power through powerful structures you have. Can you elaborate more about what you do to strengthen such networks of building community power?
Yes, community power creates the space into like bringing all different ideas, generate ideas to see how we can put these ideas together and can be heard in the communities. And the reconciliation process, we started it in 2008 in Sierra Leone. And it's a post-conflict country wherein you have so many people and so many things happen. Sierra Leone didn't just suffer in the 11-year civil war, and there has been the Ebola, in which there have been conflicts, not just about war. They have other natural things that also happen, which has brought so much separation, so much disconnections. And, you know, working in such a situation wherein everybody needs his or her own problem to be solved. And so what we do is we create the space, we engage the communities because they have so many felt needs. But we engage them, we train them. Like, for example, there are so many villages where in their houses we are burnt down, most of their properties we are destroyed. So like they lost hope. Most of them feel depressed. So when we visit those communities, we started the work, we have to engage them, we train them, and also it's like about asking consultation. What do you want to do by yourself? It's not what is coming from the outside. So most times we name so many things that we want to address, but knowing that there are so many things in the communities in which they don't know how to tap into those resources. So we train them. For example, if they want to do a community barre, you know, we have natural resources there. You have the stick, you have the stone, you have the sand, you have all those things which they cannot buy. They can produce it for themselves. So we train them how to start, to be self-reliant, how to bring development from their own heart, the drive, and to see that those things are addressed. And we have got success stories in so many areas in Sierra Leone. We have communities who have built health centers for themselves. We have some of them who have done community barrier for themselves. We have some of them who have built roads. We have some of them who have built bridges for themselves, culverts, you know. So community power is like integrating this whole process across the world, across borders, to see that we learn from each other and bring in ideas how it can be cascaded into so many areas. And also we have other countries that are struggling with so many things in terms of war. But reconciliation is not just about who comes in to settle your own issues. You have to build the peace from the inside out, because you have to find local solutions for local problems.
So thank you, Joseph. Thank you, Joseph, for that elaborate view on how community power has been used to bring peace and reconciliation in Sierra Leone and many other struggling countries with conflict. And I must say there's a lot of mental challenges in such conflicts, not only in areas where we have active conflicts, but also in areas where we have active issues which have not been resolved. I come back to Ivette again and ask, how is she using community power to address the mental challenges, the trauma faced by immigrants, and the repressive laws and the injustices that we see the immigrants face, particularly in the U.S. What are you doing on that?
Yes. So a natural, something that we do as human beings is that when we are faced with pressure from the outside, we tend to internalize it and think that it's our fault. Like, oh, maybe the reason that I'm poor, or maybe it's because I did wrong, I shouldn't have come to the United States, I'm an illegal person, or in every context, that's how children also take it personally. When their parents are fighting, they think maybe it's my fault that they are fighting. So that's what we do as human beings. So what we are doing is kind of bringing a light to people and helping them see, okay, it's not all, there's a systemic dysfunction that is impacting you. So it's not your fault. It's not you who's wrong. So that's the first thing. So that the person comes out of blaming themselves or thinking something is wrong with me. So we help them see that there's a systemic problem. And that's why you need to organize and work with others, because you alone, you are not going to overcome it. We need to kind of little by little address the systemic problems, and we can create together a better society that starts with your coming out of blaming yourself and coming out of this darkness and understanding, okay, I can, so it's kind of helping, that's why I like the light, helping them remember and see clearly, and have their own light, and then the same that this lamp can help ignite other lights in other people. So together, then we say, okay, so we together, so for example, in my community, like if there's no jobs or there's no opportunity, but there's a woman who knows how to make tamales. Tamales is like a food. And so we say, okay, let's work together, and we can start a business, like what Joseph was saying. So we can create something different. We can understand now that even though the system is oppressing us, we have resources among ourselves, and we can create a different reality for ourselves.
Thank you, Ivette. But I wanted to get more personal. Do you have any little case or one case where you help somebody get off the trap or mental trouble? Do you have one person you can talk about?
Yeah.
You can just mention one case where you felt the power of passion and commitment.
Yeah. So for example, there's this family where their husband, they were engaged in domestic violence. And so, but then when we came to educate the family, we help them see that you are fighting with each other, but in reality, the stress is coming from outside. So you shouldn't be fighting with each other. You need to be a couple together and help each other overcome the difficulties. And then we asked this woman, like, maybe you alone as a couple, you cannot do it either. You need a community because you don't have a network. When you are an immigrant, you lose all your uncles, aunts, and you don't have a network of support. So you need to create a network of support and adopt new cousins and aunts and everything. And so we created a women's village. And so then now the women's village support each other, and they, for example, if a woman say, well, I don't have who can watch my kids while I'm working, but this other woman said, yeah, I can watch your kids, so I can provide transportation. So we created an informal network of support, and we have a WhatsApp group. So when somebody needs a ride or someone needs help, they say, I need a ride to this city, and then somebody else says, I can give you a ride. So that's kind of one way.
Thank you, viewers. I think you can see the power of community power, of realizing that we are all human. We are all human with the same blood, with the same issues. And we can fight within our families, not just because of the difficulty within ourselves, but because of the external forces, yes, which we may not see. But by building community power networks, we bring our connectedness we bring our vulnerabilities together, and we help each other in solving issues which we see as very difficult, but they are very easily solved when we have an interconnected community which looked at each other as a human being, which cares for somebody, which look at somebody who has dignity, somebody who needs care and support. Thank you, Ivette. And we are almost going to the closing. We have to ask our colleague here, Joseph, what critical case were you seeing the power of community power building or assisting somebody who is depressed, getting out of that situation and feeling lifted out of the conflicts and the challenges we face as the community? Do you have a case?
Yes, thank you, Elizaphan. Let me just show this thing here. And if you look at this, in our own operation, you can see a tree, and you can see people underneath this. This is about inclusiveness. Everybody is involved. It's like leaving no one behind. If you look up at the top of the tree, you can see that the tree is bent. But you can see also down here as roots. You know, there are so many things here that is involved in terms of reconciliation. And we've got success stories in Kailaun. We are in a guy who was involved in the fighting force has to murder publicly the father of his friend, which was terrible, and this was done in the public space. So when we started our reconciliation processes in 2008, and we are able to locate them, and but they were afraid to speak up because they were afraid that they can be apprehended, because the special court was then set up in Sierra Leone to try those who committed high atrocities during the fighting force. But we engaged them. We informed them that, listen, you are not going to be arrested. Feel confident. We are here. We are like you. You are human, because we're trying to bring in the integration processes in the local way in which they can have confidence. So the guy had to say, is now that I have this confidence, I can speak up. So he stood publicly in that bonfire, you know, and said, yes, he committed this thing. But he was under the influence of drugs and other things. But as from today, in this open space, he pleaded for mercy to be forgiven. And the victims also stood up and said, since you have said this, I feel healed from my trauma, from my depression. They had to embrace themselves and reconcile. So this teaches us money and power, people use it to gain wealth, you know, forgetting about the roots. Because without the roots, we can't stand. And the stem also, the trunk, is the bridges. And these are the bridges community powers is building. This is the network we are bringing together, the ideas. And hence we build those bridges, hence we stand as a tree, there will be a successful community power across the world and across borders.
Thank you, Joseph, for that initiative in dialogue, connections, and also taking it within you to lift people who are in serious trauma and making them to speak out. It is not easy for you to speak in a public when you have done a lot of atrocities, particularly in your own community. But through community power, building dialogues and helping people to speak out helps a lot. Finally, I was coming to my colleague here, Ivette, there's an artifact he shared with us, and we wanted to get a feel. What does it mean with the artifact which you shared?
So this comes from a story of a woman who thought she didn't have anything to offer, but then she remembered that she had herself, and and that the light in oneself is like the light of wisdom and the warmth, and that with this she brought it to a village as an offering that helped others, and if I turn my light, I can light yours, and I can light yours. So that's kind of the power of that we can then all reconnect with our own wisdom and warmth, that nobody can take it away. That they can take away many external things, but but our internal light, our internal fire, that's nobody can take that away.
Thank you. That's very powerful. That our internal power and resilience is fueled by the connectedness of lighting somebody, making somebody happy across the border, making somebody happy in your neighborhood, and making sure that we live as humanity, we live as people who love each other, besides the challenges which we are brought, and most of them are man-made challenges, purely through industrial complexes, capitalism, and other issues. But as communities, we need to connect each other and say that the issues which are alive to humanity, justice, and a commitment for nature and people must be protected. Finally, my colleague Joseph, there's something you said again. I think you need to emphasize again. Yeah. Why do you love this symbol? Why do you love this? Why do you travel with it? What is so powerful inside it?
Yes, it's so powerful because as a tree is a symbol of unity. Yeah. And you know, a tree can be affected by the wind, and it can be swayed in different ways. But with the roots, with the resilience, you can stand up. And a reconciliation is not an event. It's a process. You can go to start reconciliation in certain communities. You can be even thrown away, or you can be rejected. So reconciliation process, you have to have the passion for the job. It's not about gaining what you, for personal gain. It's about building the structures to have a coexistence and peaceful environment for people to see that we are one. So the tree here, you can see that everybody is involved, inclusive. You cannot do reconciliation wherein you bring in separations. And sometimes you have to be careful when doing a reconciliation, because you cannot go to reconcile or you ignite problems. So thereby, bring everybody on board, especially in the community. Because there are people in the community wherein they are troublemakers. They don't want to listen. They don't want to be controlled. They don't want to participate. They are always looking for trouble. They are looking for problems. So the tree here is very, very important to me. And I sense that I learned from it that the roots, if you don't have the root in a reconciliation, that one won't stand. And if you don't have the trunk in a reconciliation, you won't succeed. And if you don't have the leaves, the branches, the fruits in there, it symbolizes everything in the process of reconciliation. So these artifacts really demonstrate like reconciliation leads from the heart. It's not of what you see or what you hear. And you can be told about something, but if you are a strong peace ambassador, you need to find out, you need to understand, you need to know the issue, you need to know the story before you started doing the process for a peaceful and a successful peaceful coexistence and development.
Thank you so much. Today we are looking at the Community Power series, and we are so excited that we have a powerful team from Ivette, Joseph, and we look forward to having more serious discussions on various topics on building community power, because we know the challenges of the global challenges of conflict, the global challenge of food insecurity, the global challenges of health education challenges cannot be solved by government or businesses, but it is solved through community power. We need to give power to where it belongs, to our communities. Community power. 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 Power to communities.
Power.
Community power.
Power.